Body.
Live streaming is on.
Let me bring my picture back up. There we go.
There you go.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'll moderate. Um, this is the July 5th meeting of the Western North Carolina Linux Users Group. And today we're going to talk about, just going to go round robin, talk about what we're doing in Linux. And so today I guess I'll go ahead and start with Alan. Alan, what you got going on?
I've just been busy doing things around my house. Not a lot of computer stuff, other than just trying to get a couple devices working again.
Licenses for what?
Devices.
Oh, devices. I thought you said licenses. Sorry.
Yeah,
You have to have a license to live on
had
top.
an internet outage for 3 days and some power outages, and it's kind of messed up some of my Raspberry Pi and some other things, but trying to get them back online.
Oh, okay.
Who's your internet? Is it Spectrum? That's not Spectrum.
No, it's a company called Zito Media based out of Pennsylvania, and they service Yancey County and Burnsville and Mitchell County are two of the local areas they serve.
Huh.
And one of these gravel trucks that's hauling in loads of gravel to repair the highway just cut the cable. It's overhead fiber, and it snagged the cable and took a bunch of people out.
Jeez. Do you get gigabit Ethernet through your fiber?
It's available. I've got like their 100 megabit service, but I don't even get the 100. Actual performance is probably about 80 megabit.
Oh.
It's fast enough for me. If I lived in Asheville or some other larger area, I probably would go for the gigabit service, because it's the same price or even less than what I'm paying now.
Right.
But I'm happy to have any internet.
Yeah.
Right.
Where you are.
Well, as you know, last meeting I was giving a presentation and got power outage. So I went ahead and did a video of the presentation. How many people watched it? Anybody watch it? The video?
Where is it, on YouTube?
It's on YouTube on our channel.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I went ahead and did that because rather than give the presentation over, this time on Casa OS, and it's pretty good. It's about an hour long, so if you want to watch it. All right. So, what else you got going, Alan?
Just like I said, I've been very busy just with household and property responsibilities, and just dealing with a few personal issues myself. But anyway, it's on the internet every day, just using Chat GPT more as a search tool, and just following the national and international news. It keeps me busy.
Yeah.
When you say using Chat GPT, every time I Google something now, the first answer that comes up it flags it as an AI. Would you consider that using Chat GPT or not?
I don't, because I think the Google is Gemini, which is their AI.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
And
yeah, it's Gemini.
You think Chat GPT is superior to that?
Oh yeah.
I like it, and there's different tiers of Chat GPT. I mean, you can go for the free, just the base tier. That's what I use, and it's fine for my needs. But you can pay like $20 a month and get their enhanced large language models. And
so, what do you use it as though it were a browser, or is it a freestanding program? How does that work?
I just go to their website in a browser
Uh-huh.
and query, enter, search prompts through the web browser.
Yeah.
They have an app that you can download and use from your phone if you wish. I use everything. So, I will do Google searches. I use the DuckDuckGo and the Firefox, whatever the default browser that I have selected. I use that. I use if I have a special query that I want to make, if I want to go do like a deeper search or try to pull, I found that ChatGPT offers a lot more detail than it organizes better than Google, and you can download your search in a various format, including PDF files. I like it.
Yeah. I'll have to try that. I've always been a little leery and suspicious of ChatGPT, but if every search you make in Google starts you out with AI, then I guess there's going to be no escaping somehow.
Well, Gene, you can ask ChatGPT to you can append on your query, your search prompt. Please provide references or sources.
Yeah.
And they will list. Mainly what I do is search like scientific and medical journal articles.
Right.
And it's very helpful to me to to identify the original source documents, and that's about as good as you're going to get. Is having the original source.
Uh-huh.
What version do you use?
Of ChatGPT?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I could run it and tell you real quickly, but
I'm using 4.5.
I think I'm 4.0.
Thanks, Leander.
So you're 4.0? Yeah, I'm using the 4.5 version, so I think it's probably a little bit more enhanced, but I love it. I mean, I do a lot of my research using it as well.
Well, I wonder, you're saying searching scientific and medical journals and articles and stuff like that. What is it, LexisNexis? Has anybody ever subscribed to that?
No, but I know what it's about.
Yeah.
I know what it is.
But it's a pay to use, right?
Right.
Yes.
I'm wondering if AI has or can worm its way into something like that.
Oh, sure. I'm sure it can.
Well, LexisNexis is I used to use that service years ago.
Yeah.
And it also is a sites like source publications. I mean that and periodicals and websites.
Yeah.
So it does something similar, but it does oftentimes. I used to go to University of North Carolina Asheville campus,
Yeah.
and they subscribed to, or they did, to LexisNexis and other proprietary paid database access. But it's expensive for an individual to subscribe to it. They have special programs for students or for certain professionals, but it's still, I just, for my needs, it would be great to have, but I just can't afford to pay it.
Well, especially not if you can get the same results through AI or ChatGPT or whatever, wherever those little fingers go.
Mm-hmm.
Google Scholar is one of the another resource, because what happens is when I go, it's mainly medical stuff that I'm researching.
Yeah.
they you hit a paywall, like you'll get these medical research sites,
Oh, yeah.
and they will give you an abstract of the article, but you either have to purchase the individual publication or subscribe to it. And I really have not done that. I've
Yeah.
just used I look around for other, like Google Scholar sometimes will have the original full journal article.
Mhm.
But anyway, it's for what it is. It's a valuable resource to me.
Well,
Yeah.
Alan, when I was working on my PhD, I used Google Scholar all the time, and I connected it to my university library, and it's really good because, like you said, you hit these scholarly journal article sites, and if you're not connected to a library or something, you're gonna have to pay for it to download, an article or a paper or something like that. Got a
All right,
question.
that's basically it for me. So unless somebody has a question or
I had a question for you. What
What?
are you doing with your what do you call it? Now it went right out of my head. Mount Mitchell site stuff that's going on.
Well, the park is currently closed to visitors.
Oh, okay.
They had very limited damage to the park itself, but the Blue Ridge Parkway, which is the access to the park, is
Yeah.
still largely closed. There's limited access from State Road 80, but I'm supposed to go up to the park next Wednesday. We got to be escorted in by a ranger, and they got to phone you got to phone in your license plate and let the parkway traffic control know that you'll be opening the gate and coming up. But I've got 2 or 3 devices up there that are not currently working.
Yeah.
One of our radios that provides Wi-Fi access is we don't know what the problem is. It's probably a cable issue, because either the Ethernet jacks get corroded, or sometimes a flying squirrel will chew through a cable. But or maybe the radio itself has gone bad. But I'll check that. I also have to check our weather station, the WeWix weather software that runs on a Raspberry Pi.
Right.
It's got some issues, so I'm going to swap out the Raspberry Pi to hopefully get the weather station reporting again.
Okay. I did not realize the park was still closed. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Alan. You got anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Larry, you still there? You got anything this month?
I don't have anything new. All my stuff seems to be working well, but I'd say most of my stuff now might be considered legacy. I don't have hardly anything that's over 4 gigabytes of RAM in it, like this laptop. I do have one with 8 gigabytes desktop. That thing seems to work okay too. It's been taking care of family issues, I guess, mostly recently. But I don't really have anything new to say about Linux. So that's it for me for now. I mean, it's kind of noisy here too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you don't have anything else, I'll move on to somebody else then. Good
That's it for me.
talking to you. Okay. All right. Pete, what you got going on?
Oh, I want to apologize for signing in late.
Pete, I love that shirt.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
I looked at it too. That's pretty good.
We had our annual homeowner association meeting this morning, and of course it ran over, so that delayed me getting back
You're up
to
on
the
top of the hill?
Well, we have it down at our neighboring Fairview Forest. They have a really nice community room that we were allowed to use. So we don't have a community room up here. We've got a shed. That's about it. Let's see. Computer-wise, not anything going on new, but I've really been enjoying the nice weather the last 3 days up here on top of my mountain. It's been in the mid 70s or lower and sunny. So, and everybody's been down at the lake, and the kids are making noise and swimming and jumping off the dock, and it's been a lot of fun.
Now, if we look at the map, is it going to say Pete's Mountain where you?
No, I think it says Flat Top Mountain.
Oh, okay.
I think, pretty sure. There was one other thing I wanted to comment on. It went out the door with my fun getting old, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, it is. I lose the memory from time to time myself. Let me ask you, Pete, did you get a chance to look at my video on the Raspberry Pi 500 with the Casa OS, that presentation that I tried to do in June, but it got stopped?
Yeah, I may have started it, but I don't think I got all the way through it.
Okay, it's about an hour long, so.
Yeah. I think I got distracted because I went online to see how much it's going to cost me for an 8 gigabyte Raspberry Pi.
It's going to cost you about $100.
Yeah.
A little over $100.
Talk to Leander.
Yeah, talk to Leander. When he talks, he'll tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, I got mine through Amazon, so that's retail.
You did?
So,
Okay.
yeah, $106.
That was a good price?
Yeah. I didn't get the whole can kit, but I did get the Raspberry Pi and the box and the fan and all of that. So I put it all together.
And I have a can kit for a previous version of the Raspberry Pi. I wonder if the power supply is the same.
No, well, I don't think so.
Oh.
That's the thing is Raspberry Pi 5 can use the power supply from the older Pi 4.
Okay.
It's not a problem, but it doesn't give it the same kick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Like supporting, USB devices and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But for running Casa OS, you need 8 gigs or better. You can't do it with 4. I mean, it'll run, but it just won't be a good performer.
Right.
I've been running it. It's solid. I mean, it hasn't burped since the last meeting. Yeah. So it's still great running right along. I didn't know if you get a chance to watch the video or not, but that's good.
I will. I'll make time to
It's on our channel.
Yes.
Yes.
When we get good weather up here, we take advantage of it because sometimes.
Right.
Oh, that was the other thing. Just popped back in. I was invited downtown to a friend of mine has a condo on Church Street, which is like maybe 5 blocks from where the fireworks went off last night. And we were up on his roof, about 5 stories up, and holy mackerel, we had a fantastic view. The fireworks were unbelievable. It started at 9:30 and ran for 25 minutes, nonstop. There were no pauses.
Yeah, I heard it.
I bet. And then, really interesting, there were drones up above, like pretty high up. One had a red light and a blue light that was blinking back and forth. Another one had a green light. I can't remember if the other one was blue or red. I think it was blue and green.
All right.
Were they Russian or Ukrainian, Pete?
Chinese.
I was really amazed. And those things, when they hover, they're motionless in the sky. And then when they decide to move, wow, they go so fast because they looked like they were hovering because we could see all these different fireworks. They had one down at the ball field after the game finished. They had the one in Asheville. They had a couple of them further to the south. I can't tell how far down they were, but like maybe Canton, maybe. I'm not sure. But it was absolutely amazing. Best fireworks I think I've seen.
They were probably all personal,
No.
drones. No?
Oh, the drones?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Somebody else up on the roof, there was a bunch of us up watching, said he thought since it was a blue light and a red light flashing, he thought it was Buncombe County Sheriff's Department or
Maybe they were
Asheville.
filming it,
Yeah,
recording.
filming it, yeah. I
Yeah,
was going
or
to say,
looking
why didn't
for-
we see that on video or something?
Yeah, I have no clue, but really impressive.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it for me. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
Well, thanks, Pete.
Yep.
All right. Leander, what you got going on?
There you go. I've been busy. I've been doing actually quite a lot of stuff, and it all just went out of my head. But I went to Southeast Linux Fest, gave 3 talks there. It was quite interesting. It's always an interesting, fun time. Pete, if you want our Raspberry Pi, I put a couple of links in there, and you guys are closer to Charlotte than I am. The problem with getting them from Micro Center is that, well, you've got to drive to get them there.
Right.
And while the Pi might be cheaper, you're going to end up spending way more before you get out of that store. I guarantee it. Because I mean, they have everything. So it's 3D printing, all kinds of network stuff, any kind of cable or adapter you could ever think of. But I like getting them from there because they don't scalp on the prices, and so many, like I said before, so many online retailers scalp on them. And occasionally, if you watch, Micro Center will have like a $10 off Raspberry Pi sale or something.
Okay. Do they sell online, or can you order from them and get it shipped?
Some of their stuff you can. I don't know about the Pis. I think the Pis you might have to get them. Yeah, it says shipping not available. You could pre-order it, and then you could order it and then do a pickup and then drive down there and just pick it up at the door.
It's like 2-hour drive.
Oh,
for me.
Okay, it's only about an hour and 45 minutes for me, but I just go out and hit 77, and
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I have
maybe
For me,
that's
too.
it's
yeah.
20 minutes just to get down the bottom of my mountain to a real
Okay.
road. You
It's
know?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it's 4.5 miles, 8 switchbacks. We drop about 2,500 feet in that 4.5
Jeez.
miles.
You
But,
are up on the mountain.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's a little bit of ways to get out of our little river valley here, but once we break out, we got about 5 miles to get to 421, and then 421, we can head out to 77 and hit 77.
Right.
It's really
Yeah.
not that far. But it's Linux Fest is the hotel conference center where they have Linux Fest is like 2 miles from Micro Center, so
Oh.
we always have a field. So whenever we go there, we went.
It's 2
We go
stops.
there. Yeah. So, it's actually cheaper for toner. My wife does a lot of printing, and so do I with the photography stuff. And so we usually about once every 6 months we'll just make a road trip to Charlotte and do like a Costco Micro Center run. And I mean, they've got paper and toner. They have laptop batteries there. So I found like a whole wall. You just tell them
Wow.
I got a Dell XPS yada yada, and then they've got them there for you.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things. If you want to go, I'd save up your Christmas wish list and go down there.
Right. How do we convince them to open up a branch here in Asheville?
They're very. This is the only one in North Carolina, so
Oh.
they are.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't have. They're very conservative about how they open stores. That's probably why they've survived. They've been around for 40 some years, so that's probably why they survived so many booms and busts. So,
Right.
but like I said, if you're in the area, I know Asheville's a little closer to Charlotte than I am as the crow flies, but I don't with the highways and stuff. Sometimes that doesn't matter.
It's a straight shot down Route 40. You got to go up over the mountain and down through whatever.
Leander,
Yeah.
your talks at at the Self convention. Um, are they accessible?
I think so. Usually about a month after the Self, they'll
Okay.
put them up on the. If you look up, search on YouTube for Southeast Linux Fest, you should find their channel. I'll try to watch your video too, Dan. I haven't had time to sit down and look at YouTube. It's just been crazy. I have, let's see. So among other things, I have been, like I said, messing with the Raspberry Pi. Pete came late. This is actually I'm on the meeting on a Raspberry Pi right now. This is a
The keyboard.
Pi 500. Well, this is a key. It's like a Commodore 64. It's a
Yep.
Pi.
Oh, really?
Keyboard. Yeah.
Oh,
So this is
wow. I
Pi.
didn't know that.
Yep.
Yeah, the Pi 5, Pete, with 8 gigs is like a regular computer almost.
Yep.
I mean, it's pretty,
Yeah.
This is
Very good.
I can share my share my desktop. Let's see if it'll handle this. This will be a good test. All right. Share. There we go.
Wow.
Boy, that is struggling.
Look
But
at-
yeah, so
That's struggling. That was pretty fast.
well, I run a Threadripper, so I'm down from 24 cores to 4 here.
Oh, okay.
Let's see here. This is if I can type.
It's
Yeah,
not bad.
she's working hard.
Really?
Yeah, watching the CPU cores, but yeah, that's
Well, now your Pi 5 doesn't have 24 cores, does it?
no.
No,
My
I was gonna
Threadripper
say.
does. So I'm
Oh,
down
okay.
from. I'm used to that kind of responsiveness, and I'm down to a 4-core Raspberry Pi here, just trying to test it
Yeah, I
out.
was going to say.
But this is just it's just a Raspberry Pi. I will say the gimmick of this being all on the keyboard is neat. But if I was going to legitimately run this as a desktop, I would get one of the credit card form factor sized ones and put it in a case.
That's what I got.
Number one, you can get 16 gigs of RAM in this form factor. Number two, you can get the NVMe hat and have like a real drive in it, so
Yeah,
which will
yeah.
make it even speedier.
Faster.
This one,
Yeah.
the keyboard only supports the SD cards. But this is running Fedora Fedora 42,
Okay.
and full GNOME desktop. I've got my Nextcloud syncing to it and everything, and it works fine.
Yeah. Did you guys discuss this thing about they're trying to kill open source Linux and make you buy it from whatever the outfit is?
I
Are you
haven't heard
talking about Dex Libre?
Yes.
Yes.
a little bit. I don't think they're trying to kill it. I think it's just the free desktop people have been. I've had my run-ins with them before in the past, and they are. It's definitely more of a co-op mentality with them.
Yeah.
Like they don't want people. They want to design things their way, and they don't want input from outsiders. And you have to kind of buy, and I say buy your way in, but by making contributions, but then making contributions have to be
Donations. Yeah.
well, contributions into code or something like that. But
Okay.
but your contributions in that has to go along with their vision. So it's yeah, I don't know. I'm at this point in my life, I just want my stuff to work. I've got things to do, and I don't care if it's Wayland, X Libre, your dog. I don't care what's running. I just need it to work. And I run GNOME and KDE partially for the accessibility features because of my wife. That way she picks up my machine, she can use it. But also because, it integrates with my calendar on Nextcloud, it integrates with my Nextcloud file sharing and email stuff, which is a biggie for me. I could just sign in and then there's all my stuff with GNOME and KDE. I need color management and something that supports, like my laptop has a high DPI screen, and so I want something that supports, scaling and all the different fractional modes, and so if I plug it to an external monitor, it doesn't freak out. And Xorg really falls down on that. They're both terrible, but for different reasons. Xorg falls down on the newer hardware support. Wayland falls down on things that free desktop people aren't interested in supporting.
Right.
they're both awful, just to different reasons. So hopefully, like I said, I'm a little bit upset about that situation because I would really rather see, like, Linux desktop is falling behind on this stuff because of the squabbling and the internal bickering and the like. They spent years like arguing about color management and the desktop even being a thing, and I'm like, guys, this isn't even a thought to Microsoft and Apple. They just put it in there because people need it. Like, I do work. I need things to work. I need to be able to load an ICC profile and check my colors. I need to be able to calibrate a screen. Like, yes, you guys need this. And then they're like, well, should it be the responsibility of Wayland or the compositor? And I'm like, yeah, I just like, so they spent years squabbling about this. Finally, what happened, I think, is Valve came along and Valve just wrote it for their Steam Deck, which the Steam Deck's pretty incredible, actually. And then the free desktop people panicked and decided to do something because they were getting looked bad. But yeah, I could go on and ranting about it, Pete. I don't mean to keep cutting you off. Sorry, but
No problem. So I wasn't aware of all that internal stuff.
Yeah.
I know upgrades or updating the drivers or something for your particular machine was always a gamble because the new drivers might not work with your old machine, and
Yeah.
that was
Well, see, Pete, the kernel's still free. Okay.
okay.
Gene, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Leander what his talks were at the Southeast Linux Fest.
I did my usual like dark table kind of update on like the new feature set stuff coming out because once a year, we have 2 releases, and so there's always something new to talk about. I did one on the Hurricane Helene aftermath and like technology perspective, like what worked, like satellite communications, and radio, and battery power generators, technology, solar power kind of stuff, and how I'm thinking about changing my approach to a few things and in the future in terms of like, being on the fire department, you kind of get a broader view of like what worked and what didn't. Made a few ham radio people mad when I was like, yeah, ham radio was nice, but when Starlink showed up, that ham radio went in the corner and was never used again.
I bet you did.
But Elon didn't donate it. It was bought for us by FEMA. FEMA was there. They did do that. Did do some stuff. But I can understand people if they don't like the company's mascot. I think everybody's got. I think I can safely say that. I think he's made everyone mad now. If you don't like the company's mascot, there are other satellite communications companies coming on, these low LEO satellites. As an astronomer, I don't like these satellites because I was out with my telescope even last night, and it was just trains of them going through. It's awful. But
Really?
but in an emergency situation like that, satellite communications are great because they aren't affected. Starlink, or there's a British company doing one too, and there's a Chinese company. Obviously, we probably won't get access to the Chinese company's technology, but the British one, I think, is going to be able to be bought here.
I heard that Elon Musk is coming out with a sat phone.
Maybe
Tesla phone.
I know that so my iPhone 14 will do the satellite. I don't think it's through Starlink, but I think T-Mobile and a couple other companies are starting to, and some Android handsets now have that ability to do satellite, like emergency communications through Starlink or some other low Earth orbit satellite company.
Well, I've got an iPhone 16. I wonder if it'll connect to it.
Well, when you get so if you go off grid and go in an area with no cell phone service, like mine gets a little satellite icon up where the cell phone signal usually is, and it says SOS, and you can go into iMessages and send text through that. That's all you can do with it.
Oh, wow.
But in an emergency situation, if you just got to let somebody know, I'm okay, don't worry about me, I'm fine, or I'm alive, or I'm at this location, you can get a text message.
Well, I've seen the little SOS come up, so that's what that is.
That is the satellite communication.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So that was useful. We had a couple guys use that. Sorry, is that Gene?
Yeah, well, I was going to circle back to the ham radio thing. A friend of mine said that, and she worked in public health. She's retired now. But she said that after Helene, she decided she was going to be a ham radio operator. Pete, kudos to the ham radio operators.
Yeah.
But
think
sorry.
I think what hampered it in my area, and I was just trying to. Part of it, there's a three-part problem. I live in a bowl, and we have two repeaters. We have WA4J in Boone that away, and we have WY4SB in Jefferson that away. But you can't hit them with an HT. You can only hit them with a mobile in this probably 3 square mile area in Todd here, and that was a problem. The other problem was the Jefferson one went down pretty soon. It came back faster though, and the Watauga one was gone. It went down. So their communication site, they blew a line. The diesel generator there blew a fuel line, and nobody had a spare, and nobody could get a spare. It's a very specific doodad, and so that was down for days. And with our terrain here, in particular, handhelds are of mixed use. Like they're really we in the fire service, the VHF is basically dead around here. NC Viper, we can get out on just because there's so many sites in certain locations. So some of it's terrain. For the emergency preparedness thing, I feel like there's this. A lot of the younger people getting into ham radio, and I say younger, I mean like 35, 20 kind of age, mid-20s, are into the digital mode. So Pete, probably, you've heard FT8, you probably know all about that stuff.
Yeah.
It's really funny. I say they'll let their computers talk on the radio to each other, and then they'll get on Discord and talk about radios.
Yeah.
But it's so they aren't really into the emergency preparedness kind of emergency communication, so they don't really participate in like the weekly nets. I do here. I've got a mobile station, it's a mobile that I put in Iraq, and with a quarter wave ground plane, and it's all guys like, I'm probably the youngest one on the repeater by 30 years, and I'm 40. So a lot of that kind of mindset, I think, is aging out, and I don't know how to get young people involved in that.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
With field day, they just had field day, and the
Yep.
big push was to get youngsters out there, try it out, see if you like it.
Well,
How much success they had.
I know plenty of 30-somethings in ham radio, and they love but they're doing the Raspberry Pi with the FT8, the digital that's their thing. But where I am seeing emergency communications people with an interest in that going is GMRS. We've got a couple of GMRS repeaters that have been thrown up around here now, and I'm seeing more of that kind of crowd gravitating to those because there's no test. It's $35 instead of, I think, getting was it $50 for the test now? I think
it's more than that now. I think it's up to either 55 or 60. Maybe.
Yeah. When I got my license, it was only like 25, or it was cheaper.
When I got my license, they were free.
But so I think the GMRS being cheaper and not having a test kind of attracts that crowd more, and it's also more of a crowd that doesn't want to mess with the tech side of it more. They just want to buy a box that works.
Yeah.
And so GMRS is more geared towards that. So I wouldn't say throw ham radio out as an emergency thing. I would say it is a toolkit. I would say if you are living in a rural area where that is a concern, ham license, sure. You can learn how to operate. You can really learn the technical stuff. You can get in that community. It's great to have. But also, don't sleep on GMRS, GSMR, or is it General Service, the GMSR, whatever. I'm forgetting the acronym right now. I just blanked on it. Get that license. It's $35, and you can use it and participate in that. But maybe get together with like your local fire department, church, commune, whatever you've got there, that your community, your neighbors, your neighborhood, your HOA, and say maybe you can get those little backpack Starlink units, and you could do month to month. So like, if Helene 2 is coming, you can get one of those backpack units, set it up in a shelf somewhere, and then if you hear the weather forecast, you could pay for a month of service and have it for that month, and then discontinue it. As like I don't know if I would buy one at an individual level, but for like I said, if you're for like a neighborhood
Yep.
thing, have people kick in on it, and
That's
then
what saved us up here because we
Yeah.
had no power for 3 weeks.
Well, I've
They
got a
built
question for you guys, for ham radio guys. Does
Yep.
that ham radio license and all give you the ability to also talk shortwave?
Yes.
yes,
Okay.
general. You really want general class or advanced class to get up in there. The technician class is
It's really restricted.
90% VHF and
Yep.
UHF.
And
So
which is short
what's
range.
the greatest distance you've been able to talk to somebody with shortwave?
Gosh, Europe,
Yeah.
California, regularly.
Yeah.
Band is open, 15
Right.
meters.
Yeah, cross continent's really not that hard. Is pretty
No.
common. I had a friend he's a ham radio operator down in Raleigh, and he got to Japan or Korea one
Yeah,
time.
I was going to say, yeah.
So,
They built a Viper station on the mountaintop next to me. I can see it from
Yep.
my porch. The problem when the hurricane came through was it had a generator, but access was impossible because the roads were gone. And when the generator ran out of fuel, the Viper station went down.
Yep.
And all the police down along Old Fort Road, and they couldn't talk to the fire department, and neither one could talk to the emergency squad. So once they got the trees cut away and were able to get up to the top of my mountain, they put up a temporary Viper station of some kind. They were able to provide service down below until they're able to get things back up again.
That's where satellite communications comes in.
Yes.
yeah.
And Starlink is what saved us up here.
Yeah.
We had no communicate.
What kind of fuel did the Viper station use?
It's just a diesel backup
Diesel, yeah.
generator. Yeah. But
Yeah,
they
we
only have like a 50-gallon tank or something.
Dan, you asked about shortwave. When you get an amateur radio license, you can use your call sign to log into EchoLink, which is a computer service. And there are people logged in all around the world on EchoLink.
But you're going over the internet to get to them, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
You're not going over your radio.
Right.
I think.
That's correct.
Well, there's like WinLink, EchoLink, where you can send email over ham radio frequencies. So
Really?
Yeah, it's yeah. Yeah, but yeah, that was my talk. I'll send you guys a link. It was pretty popular, but that was, yeah, it was just kind of like what I learned, and like I said, there are other, like, if you don't want to give money to Elon Musk, for whatever reason, I totally understand that, and there's going to be other companies coming online with these things. Much to my chagrin, I think about Kessler syndrome and ruining our night sky quite a bit.
Really?
Out there a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah, but you can't deny the utility in those situations. So,
But I thought that Elon was sending up satellites that wouldn't interfere with astronomers.
It's a visual.
They have gotten better. They're not as bright. SpaceX. What worries me more are the European and the Chinese companies doing it. SpaceX, to their credit, has taken steps to ameliorate the problems, but they're still like visible. I mean, they're still like, they'll train right through. Especially with the naked eye, you can't see them once they get up to their orbit so bad. But even with a moderate 5-inch telescope, you can, if they start training through the object that you'll see them going through. We have the DSO out here that I do outreach for, help with the outreach stuff for, and the 32-inch that the research scientists use there. I mean, like, he's constantly pasting to social media. It's like, oh, look, another Starlink train ruined my data set for this because it was just training right through the object. So, a couple dozen of them, one after the other, and it's so it knocks out a good bit of data. But
Can't you filter that out with some kind of a computer program, though?
If it so it depends on where it passes through. If you're looking at something here and the satellite's kind of trained through here,
Right.
it's not that big of a deal. You can average that out. But the problem is if they're here and, like, if I'm looking at it and they're training over the thing
Right
you're
through it,
looking at, that's the problem.
Okay.
Apparently for radio stuff too, they're also a mess because they broadcast and
All these frequencies. Yeah.
yeah. So,
Mm.
but it's kind of one of those things where I like it for emergency stuff. I think for everyday use, though, I think this is my personal, probably technically correct opinion. It's more expensive, but I think the technically superior thing is just to drive fiber in the ground for everyday use. Starlink's good for an emergency, but at the end of the day, my much cheaper fiber optic internet connection smokes it. It's more reliable, lower latency, and it's usually it's a technically superior but more expensive solution.
Well, Leander, I was going to say Starlink is where that goes. Makes its play is for people like pilots that are flying. That they want to install that in their small planes, so they can get internet connectivity while they're flying. The other one is if you're sailing. So if you're sailing over the water, in the Pacific or something like that, it comes in really handy.
So there's been incidences with the Navy's like super stealth destroyers or sailors, I guess, are smuggling them on board. So because you aren't supposed to have internet connectivity on those.
They'll get court-martialed for doing that.
Yeah, they have. But yeah, so it's been a problem. But the problem is you got to catch them first, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and by the time you've caught them, they've already TikToked 5 or 6 times. That so it's So it's kind of become a bit of a thing there. Yeah, it's that. I think in the past there had been like Iridium satellite phones and stuff for people in that situation, but they were prohibitively expensive, and Iridium set out at a farther orbit, so it was even lower latency, so it wasn't really that great.
Yeah.
There was another company, you could get megabytes of data literally for like a few $100s. It was good enough for sending an email or something, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I see the utility in it. I just hucking up thousands of satellites a year is problematic for a lot of reasons. But anyway, it is what it is. I do think it has its utilities. But on the other stuff, let's see. Like I said, I've been messing with the Raspberry Pis, trying to get the astronomy telescope controller box working, set up and going. I've been I got my Pawigo, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's a free open source self-hosted photo sharing application backup. I got that hosted. I've got a little VM on my mini PC in the basement that I did that, and I've got a Nginx proxy on my router that handles all of that.
Yeah.
I have all my stuff. I could put it on my Colo, but I'm trying to see running it out of my house how it goes. I used to have it on the Colo. As far as AI stuff goes, I put most of my stuff behind a free open source project called Anubis, which is it's a proxy.
How do you spell that?
Anubis, Anubis, like the Greek, like the Egyptian god. Yep. But it is it's a little program that you can install, and it proxies the connections. And basically what it does is it requires the end browser to do a proof of work calculation. So if you're doing it, if you go to the website, you get a brief kind of Cloudflare it kind of works like Cloudflare, but a little different, and you can host it yourself. You get a little splash screen that tells you it's doing a calculation. And what that does is if it's you, me, or a regular person with a regular computer, our browser has no trouble doing that calculation. It doesn't cost us anything. And so it does the calculation to make sure you're not a bot, and then it'll pass you through. If you are an AI scraper and you're launching thousands of scrapers off an Amazon EC2 instance or Azure instance where your CPU load is calculated or costs you a lot of money, you start hitting this thing and it starts chewing up your CPU and increasing your bills. It kind of makes it not only do these bots in general have a hard time getting around those, but it also, if they do the only way around it is to do the calculation. So if they want to scrape your site, it's going to cost them a lot of money. And it's kind of an ingenious thing because it flips the paradigm on its head. Usually Cloudflare will sell you bot protection for thousands of dollars a month in my work's case, but this product, Anubis, will. If it's like I can post a link, but Anubis flips that paradigm on its head to where you're costing the AI scrapers money, and they aren't getting your data. It's kind of a nuclear option, but my infrastructure, my web service and stuff, we're getting hit and scraped. I mean, they are aggressive. They are not. They don't respect robots that text. And so I just I went with that option. And it's working pretty well. And not only that, it has the added knock-on side effect. I'll post a link in chat here of blocking a lot of your security. Your kids going by and knocking on doors, trying to find vulnerabilities and like WordPress installs and all that stuff. I don't even run WordPress, but it really knocks that down. And FFmpeg, I've noticed a lot of open source projects are starting to use Anubis. I got in on it early, but FFmpeg has it on their wiki. RPM Fusion has it on their wiki now. The GNOME people, the free desktop people, have started using it on their GitLab instance because GitLab is a pig, and it costs them a lot of. An AI scraper comes by and starts scraping through their GitLab instance. That costs them a ton of money, and it just cuts. Like I said, it flips the paradigm on its head to where it charges the AI companies end up getting cost of CPU time, and just give up usually. So again, I'm not as bullish on AI as some people. I'm more of I don't want another Silicon Valley rental product in my life. So I have self-hosted a couple of LLMs to play with. I find their utility mixed at best at times, but it is what it is. I just don't want my my data used as the mulch for their product and not getting paid. I don't want to, I want other people to enjoy what I put out. I don't want it like chewed up and then spat out incorrectly by a robot. That's kind of my stance on it, especially when it's costing me money for them to do that. And I'm not saying now if they want to come by my website and say, hey, we'll pay you this much a month in royalties, then yeah, absolutely, sure. Pay me for my time, but pay me for my resources. Okay, but if I don't care if some kid, 13-year-old, comes by and looks at my stuff and uses it, but I do care if a multi-million-dollar, multi-billion-dollar value company is doing it.
Right.
That's just So anyway, but that's an interesting project I've done. Poligio is, I could send the link to that too, but this is hosted on my mini PC I have downstairs and a little VM. I've just been uploading photos to it for sharing around. I did a multi-site install, so I have another site on there. So when I do photos for a client, I'm using it for proofing. So I have like proofs.leanderhutton.com that's like behind the login wall. And so I could send a password to a client and say, hey, do you like these? Do you want to approve these? And they can go through them and say, I like number 5, 8, and 12, but not the rest of them. And I can use it for that. It integrates with Darktable. You can export straight from Darktable. I think from Lightroom too, if you're using that. And it's completely self-hostable. If you don't want to self-host it, I think the Poligio people do offer like a pay for. You give them like $5 a month or $10 a month, and they'll host your site for you on the software. But there's a lot of plugins for it. There's a lot of themes and stuff. You can customize it. There's a few businesses that use it, but I like that product a lot, and it's kind of a clean kind of clean thing. I did set it up where it will host video. In fact, I gotta post the link straight to that in the chat. That's a video of the moon through my LX90 Meade telescope, but I got it set up with the JavaScript video player where it'll play videos too. So it's a nice thing. It probably will run on a Raspberry Pi just fine. I have a mini PC down there, so I have an Ansible Play set up to deploy a Debian VM, and I just deployed Debian VM and stuck it on there instead because it was on. It also runs my Podman stuff. So But yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to. A little bit of everything. Sorry for going so long, but
That's okay. I got a question for you, Leander.
Yep.
All your photo stuff, is that mainly Docker?
sorry, you kind of cut out a second
I
there.
said all of your photo stuff, is that mainly run through Docker applications?
No, no. So Darktable is the desktop application. You can run Poligio and Docker, but I just stuck it in a WNVM, and I manage it with some Ansible plays that way.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do have Podman, which is a Docker. I like Podman better than Docker just because it's rootless. It's a little more secure. I do run a few containers, mostly for some like my network management application for TP-Link Omada as a Docker container. And Docker containers and Podman, you're kind of interchangeable. You can run one or the other. And so it's got the little web interface where I can go and manage and update my wireless access points and manage the VLANs on my switch and stuff. And that runs in Podman. I've run the early days of Anubis. It was only a Docker container, and I ran Anubis in a pod, and so I ran Anubis through Podman until they came out with a native Debian package. But yeah, you can probably run that in Docker. That might be a good exercise. I might go write a Docker file for it and see if I could make Podman Compose run that. But
do a Docker Compose file.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
Well, there's Podman Compose. I do. If you like Docker, I would take a look at Podman. It's a little bit more cantankerous. Things I did not like about Docker was it has to manage the whole network stack. There's no way to just put it on a box with something else. It's going to sit in there and grub up all of your IP tables rules. It doesn't support NF tables, and I didn't like that. Podman does containers. That's all she does. If you want it to run as a service, you have to configure systemd to run the Podman container as a service. If you control the networking, so if you want to firewall off an application, you integrate that with your firewall setup. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit more Unix philosophy in that Podman, we just run containers. The rest of it is up to you. Whereas Docker is it does everything for you.
Well, everything I do in COS is Docker, so that's why I was asking. I got a question about your astronomy.
Yep.
Have you ever played with the Linux application called Planetarium?
There's a K. Are you talking like K-Stars?
K-Stars, yeah.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, that's actually K-Stars is like the premier. I use CartStay-Soul, Stellarium, K-Stars. K-Stars is like the premier way. It ties in with the Indy driver stack, and so you can run your telescope and everything, and your imaging trained through K-Stars. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't done much with K-Stars, but I did Stellarium.
Yep.
Did you like Stellarium, or did
Stellarium we used in lab as an
Stellarium,
educational? Yeah. Yep, as an educational tool, and they actually have a web app now. You can run it right in your web browser. But
you can. Okay.
But it's a little bit for my applications. It's a little bit. It's kind of neat for people who are learning the night sky because it emulates that look.
Right.
It's a great educational tool. Yeah. But for actually like driving a telescope or telling something to go somewhere, I think the K-Stars is a little bit better. Or it's the French CartStu CL. But that's those are what I've used, and it's come a long way. I remember in grad school, one of my classmates was building a telescope automation thing, and everything was done in a lab view on Windows because that was how you did it 15, 17 years ago now. That whole ecosystem has changed, and like all of this stuff is become, and I mean not just telescope, but a lot of that lab automation stuff is now done on Raspberry Pis with like commodity open source libraries and stuff instead of National Instruments. I think they mainly survive off government contracts where the government has to have someone to sue when something goes wrong these days. But in industry, it's really switched.
Okay. And then finally, for you and Pete as well, I don't know about you guys, but maybe you can share your experience. But I've noticed that I use ChatGPT 4.5 quite a bit. And it's gotten to the point where when I ask it a question, it starts responding to me, and it lets me know pretty fairly well that it knows a lot about me that I haven't shared with it.
Mhm.
And it gets very friendly. It actually calls me by first name. It when it responds, say,
Right.
yes, Dan, that's very good. Let's dive deeper or something like that. And then it tells me things about, well, you're so and so and so and so, retired so and so, so you know probably more about this than I do. And I was like, how did you know that?
I don't use ChatGPT that much,
Yeah,
to be honest. I find the bots to be sycophantic in general, though. I think Claude and DeepSeek are a little less sycophantic like that, though.
yeah. It makes me wonder though, is this thing going out and researching me on the web and then
It
bringing in information, and
Doesn't
knowing more
have to
about me?
research you. You're putting the stuff out there. You've got a YouTube channel. You've got
Yeah.
Linux and all
Searches
that.
well. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not telling ChatGPT these facts,
Right.
but that doesn't mean that it isn't going out and researching me
Yes.
it's
around me.
I don't think it's researching you.
Streaming is on.
Yeah.
And then you
Dan, when I use ChatGPT, I usually just go in through the web address. I think it's chatgpt.com.
Mhm.
yes.
And if you don't log into your account, it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna give you all that personal information because they give you two options. You can create an account, and they do have a free account, and that stores it. It's got memory of your past queries and more details about your own personal use. But
Right.
I don't get any kind of the same experience that you just related. Doesn't give me any personal information at all.
Yeah, it does have the Open Web UI, which is like the self-hosted version, has a feature too you can cut on and off called memory or whatever.
Yeah. That's
So
I
try
use
to-
the. They have an app you can download.
Yeah.
so,
And
Well, I
but
have an
it's-
account through them, so through ChatGPT. So, but a lot of I've just noticed here lately that's information that I have not personally shared with it through any
well,
queries or anything like that. It seems to know more about me than I think it should know about
but
me.
you shared it with somebody.
you shared it with
Yeah.
if it's publicly on the internet, they have
They got
ingested it and it's mulched
Yep.
in their digital mulch there,
Yeah, and it's
it's
connected it to me
yeah.
personally. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's you gave it maybe your email address and it connected that to your Google account and then it connected
Yeah.
that to your
Yeah.
YouTube channel
That's true.
that's so it's I don't think it's personally researching you. I think it's just you've put stuff out there and it's in that again mulch that it's sucked up. So
We're
Do
watching
you include a please or at the end a thank you?
Yes.
Because I've read some articles about whether that helps or not. It certainly incurs a cost to their server,
Mhm.
just processing those courtesies, and it adds up to millions and millions of dollars and a lot of extra energy usage. But the consensus is it does help your Chat GPT results.
Well, I was going to say, when I do it out of habit, please show me this, or and I'll say thank you for that or whatever. And I've noticed that it does get nicer
Really?
towards you. Yeah.
it's the problem with these things, and I'm noticing this with Gen Zs. Gen Z's using them like how they would talk to a friend, and they're very sycophantic. And so, like, whereas a human, if you're like, I'm going to sell all my stuff and go live in, go do something really, like if you're having a bad day,
Right.
like a friend would probably be like, that's not a good idea. Don't do that. These bots are just like, go for it. Like every idea you have is the best idea ever.
Oh yeah. Of course.
And it's like,
of course.
I
I'm gonna
really,
slit my wrists.
yeah. So it's I don't like the way that Gen Z is approaching them, and it's it's replacing therapy and a friend and all this other stuff for him. And I'm like, this seems bad. And not only that, you know, my this is my tinfoil hat, but I'm sitting there thinking, man, you know, Gen Z is going to grow up one day, and if I'm Sam Altman, I'm sitting there going, let's record this stuff because these guys are going to be running for Congress and stuff one day, and I could go, oh, Mister, yeah, congratulations on your election, Senator, or whatever. You remember 20 years ago in Chat GPT when you told it this? Yeah, do you want that getting out? No, then you're going to pass what I want. Yeah, so it's, you know, yeah.
But you know what,
that far, Leander.
Leander, there are people, no, like Alan and I use Chat GPT, and Pete does probably too, you know, for researching mainly.
Yep.
Okay. But there are people who use Chat GPT as a chat, you know, to talk to them as a human being.
Yep.
Because they're lonely. And they talk to them like they're talking to their friend.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's kind of sad if you think
That's
about
mostly
it.
the young people. That's what I'm saying. It's mostly
Yeah.
the Gen Z kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when the algorithm is designed to lead you further down that whatever rabbit hole
Right.
you're in,
Right.
what could possibly go wrong?
Everything.
So
I mean, they use them for their therapist, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
so it's
Yeah,
that
but you
kind of-
don't want a therapist to agree with every bad idea you have.
No,
No.
like committing suicide.
Yeah,
you don't,
exactly.
you don't want that. And it's, I don't know. I'm still not, I think we're going to look back in this era in history and be like, that was weird.
If we're able to look back at all, we're going to
Yeah.
say, man, we really messed up.
Yeah, I don't know. I see the utility for certain things. These bots are so often like incorrect in my areas of expertise that I have a hard time. Like people use them in areas where they don't know things, right? Like, I mean, that's why you would ask it. I don't know this thing. Let me ask
Right.
it. But in the times when I've tested it in my domain of expertise or things adjacent enough to where I kind of know what's going on, you know, it'll slip up or do something, and it's enough that I won't trust it if I don't know. And at that point, I'm like, well, is it really any better than a reference book or an old Google search, plain old Google search? Because you know, if I have to go and verify what it's saying anyway, just skip the talking to the bot and go straight to that. The people who I've got coworkers that swear by it. It's another thing. That's if you want to irritate me at work, you know, if I ask a question in Google Chat, respond with, well, Chat GPT or Copilot said this. I'm like, I didn't ask Chat GPT or Copilot. I could do that.
Yeah.
I asked you. So it's like I'm worried about them becoming the gospel of truth to a generation. I'm worried that people are going to just believe them unquestionably. And there was actually an interesting study done recently. I heard about on the radio on NPR. They were talking about, they ran a study where they broke a class up into subgroups, and they let one class use ChatGPT to research and write their paper, and the other one they let use internet sources, and in the third one they let only use books or something. Like they broke it up like that.
Yeah.
And the two groups that could not use ChatGPT, their papers were not as long, their grammar was not as well written, you know, it was more poorly written from that standpoint. But when they were given the topic to research, their ideas are more wildly varied. Like people arrived at different conclusions based on their own thought process. The Chat GPT group, it was interesting. Their papers were better from a technical standpoint, better written, better grammar, more
Better researched.
very. But this is where I pushed back on that. They all converged to the same idea. The chatbot converged them all to the same end goal. Like all of their papers were basically kind of the same. So it kind of steered them to a conclusion. Whereas the people who didn't have that, papers were kind of all over the place quality-wise, but you got some really interesting different ideas based on
Critical thinking.
Yeah. So it's yeah, I don't. It's and I have professors who use it that really irritate me. Like I'm trying to work with a math professor right now and set up this application for her, and all of her emails go through ChatGPT. She does not respond or read any of them, and
Really?
I'm like, I kind of want to smash on my keyboard and going,
my
what
God.
button do I need to press on here to talk to a human being? Like, when you're on the phone and you're like smacking 0 to talk to an operator. Like, it's like, I'm just like, because I try to tell her something and the bot doesn't understand it, and then it responds to me with, "That's a great idea." It's this like 3-paragraph long flowery email, but it completely did not understand what I told it, and I'm like, at some point, I'm just going to get ticked off and pick up the phone and call her. But but yeah, it's so funny to hear professors whinge and complain about students using it on their homework, and then they can't be bothered to read a 3-sentence email and reply with 3 sentences. Anyway,
Well, you made a good point about not trusting
right?
ChatGPT, because especially in the area of mathematics, when I was asking ChatGPT a question in a particular problem I was working on, I knew that the response was wrong, and so I challenged it and I said, ChatGPT, this is not correct. It doesn't follow this, da 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 da. And it came back. You know what the response was? Dan, you are absolutely correct. So in other words, it said something, and if I had just believed it and not challenged it, I would have gone on thinking that was it.
Yeah.
We're going to run it. Yeah. And
But can you trust the statement that you were absolutely correct? Then?
Yes, I can.
You chose to.
I chose to.
You're prejudiced.
And the problem is that these bots can be tilted with biases. We see it, not to get political, we see it with Grok. Grok has been documented to delve off into some like Alex Jones level crazy conspiracy talk sometimes. And it's just like, so if you're believing this bot and what it tells you, you're going to start thinking they're putting things in the water to turn the turtles by or something.
And you don't want that. You just want an answer. You don't want that.
Yeah. It's really, so these bots can be weighted towards a specific
right
goal. And I very much am not a big fan of them for a lot of reasons. It's the way I tell my friends is it's GPS but for everything. So like, whereas nobody can read a map anymore because everyone uses GPS, but this is that, but for everything. Instead of like thinking about or reading, I'm just going to ask the bot to summarize it for me and not check if it's correct. I'm not going to pick up, maybe your GPS gives you a route and you look at a map and you go, oh, wait, that bridge doesn't exist anymore. I shouldn't take a left there. You don't do that anymore.
I heard a story about GPS. That this is unbelievable. I mean, but it's supposed to be true. What I heard. It was a Japanese guy who was driving on a bridge, and the GPS told him to make a right turn, and he made the right turn and drove off the bridge.
You gotta be kidding.
No, I'm not.
I mean, I could see that happening. I mean, there's been people have driven off the road into a ditch, into a pond. I was one lady, I think it was in England or something. It was years ago. Was like, said turn left. She turned left and went over a bank and into a pond. She was okay, but but it's going to be that, but for critical thinking, for like, I don't know, ChatGPT. I don't think that this is a real. I don't think this really happened or something. People are just going to go, okay, the bot said it. It must be real. Yeah. So,
there are two different levels of. Here's the thing that is a misnomer that people have the impression that ChatGPT and all of AI is intelligent, and there's a school of thought that says AI is not intelligence at all. All it is a combination of information that it's been fed that it spits back out. Okay, so it's very knowledgeable in that way, but it's not intelligent. There's a difference between knowledge and intelligence, but there's two different forms of today anyway of AI. One's called AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, which has got the intelligence name on it, and the other one is ASI, which is artificial super intelligence. And my understanding is that the ASI and the AGI are like night and day, because you've got supercomputers running AI instead of just regular computers, data centers. And but what scares me is what's going to happen when they get quantum computers involved with AI. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yes, your passwords will no longer be safe.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So what we have today in LLMs, for me, I'm more interested in the generative AI stuff, like your stable diffusion stuff, because that's kind of interesting.
Right.
But even that is just, they're fancy probability machines. That's all they are. It's a lot of vector math that points something, in the next direction. There's a lot of partial differential equations involved in this stuff. But they aren't intelligent at all. In fact, Apple wrote a paper recently that was talking about that talked about how they've kind of hit a wall with the computing power side of it, and they're very good at common kind of canned responses that are very easy to predict, right? But when you start asking more and more complicated things, these LLMs, Apple noticed they started giving up sooner. Like they just kind of went. I need to find that paper, but it was an interesting read, and it's and even the anthropomorphizing them, I have a little bit of problem with, because they're fancy. They're essentially just fancy probabilities. That's what they are.
I agree. I think
and it's we don't have anything approaching ASI or AGI or anything. My problem is I didn't expect people. Maybe I should have had lower standards, but I was like, man, I didn't expect people to be this stupid, to be this. I mean, we've got people like believing that they're gods, or like there's like an AI cult that's.
This is an AI church.
Yeah, it's just like I didn't expect people to get. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should have had. Maybe I should have. My expectations were too high, probably. But I was like, people are getting sucked into this stuff, and I'm like, they're just. But you can break them. You can. Like I said, Apple constructed things to show kind of where they fall apart and where the math kind of doesn't work anymore. But it's just they're fancy probability machines. They're useful for some subset of specific tasks, but they're not intelligent. They aren't.
So you don't see AI becoming sentient and taking over the world and all that?
I am more concerned about what the heavily moneyed people invested in them are going to do with them. I'm more concerned with your CEOs deciding they can replace half of their support staff or all of their support staff with a crummy AI bot, put all those people out of work, and then not only that, but then you're going to get a poor service on the back end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more worried about this generation of doctors because of. I wish Steve was here to talk about this. A lot of medical settings are getting reliant on GPT bots, and I'm like, well, if I'm sitting there with like a rare weirdo cancer or something, I want the doctor who's got the cognitive ability to go, this doesn't look right. Let's go on a different route instead of just reading what the bot has to say. I'm worried more about that than I am about them taking over the world. I'm worried about rich people using them to accumulate more wealth and put more people out of work, and I'm worried about their deleterious effects on cognitive abilities and what I would consider very highly skilled engineering, medical, safety professions.
Gene.
If you don't mind me circling back to the AI church and stuff like that, I think the statement is attributed to P.T. Barnum, but it goes something like, "You're never going to lose out underestimating the intelligence of the masses."
Probably.
Oh yeah, probably yeah.
You're never going to go broke.
Yeah. Hey guys, do you know that there is a self-driving truck company? It's like Tesla, no driver, and it's connected to AI, and it's called Aurora, and it's a long-haul trucking company in the United States. I read about this the other day.
Is it on the road now?
It's on the road. Yeah. The owner of the Aurora Trucking Company makes long-haul trips, of goods and services, across the United States. And the upside of this thing is one, you don't have to pay a driver. Okay. You don't have to pay them a 401 matching 401k. You don't have to pay health insurance. You don't have to pay for vacation. You don't have to pay for any of that health insurance, the driver, because there's no driver. But the other side too is they don't have to comply with length of time to drive, because drivers have 10 hours. You have to stop and sleep, and no, you don't have to do that. This company must be raking in the profits like you've never seen.
When they have to stop for gas, who pumps the
It's
gas?
electric, but they have to stop that we charge.
So
But
Yeah.
yeah,
How do they
Where-
do that?
Who sticks the charge thing in?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, I heard that it's the first in its type in the United States, and they're doing long haul trips now. So in other words, you could be on the road on the interstate going west to visit your family or something, and you're driving by a truck with no driver.
Yeah.
A long haul delivery.
it's I see a lot of that. Truckers have been threatened with automation for at least 20 years. I'm sure it'll happen eventually, but the main side of that where I see this sticking, and this is kind of where like one is fault and liability. Like if the truck
Yeah.
runs over a family of 5 at an intersection, how do you charge a bot? Who do you sue? And they do make mistakes. I liken it to airplanes. Like airplanes are statistically far more safe than cars, right? Can't argue with that mathematically. But when they
Right.
fail, you probably aren't limping away from it. Like you car accident, most of them aren't fatal. You're going to walk away from it. You might have some injury and rehab, but if a plane falls out of the sky, you're dead. So I feel like the autonomous AI cars are going to be a lot like that. I think statistically, as a group, they're going to be safer and better than humans. But when they fail, they're going to like mow over an entire family of school children or cause a massive, because they're going to be eventually they're going to be going faster. They're going to be heavier. They're going to do like that Tesla that mistook the side of a semi truck for the open sky and then just drove the passengers straight under it and decapitated them. Like when it makes an egregious error, it's going to be bad. So but I think that's going to be probably one of the main sticking points of this. Is like, well, who do I sue for this? You know, it wasn't the driver's fault. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Was it the bot? Who do I sue? Tesla? Like it's.
Can't even sue the guy who owns the company because he wasn't behind the wheel.
Yeah, and so it's. I think that's going to probably end up being a
Well,
big
he's
sticking
behind the wheel. The other thing for me is, how do you get something like a long haul truck that has to have a lot of power and a lot of torque? How much battery do you need for something like that, and what kind of battery life do you get?
Yeah, well, you can get a lot more batteries in a truck than you can a car.
Of course, but then that's going to compromise your payload too.
That's a problem. Tesla's Semi released too much fanfare, but the battery weight on it's so high, they can't. They have like, because of the way because you have to have a weight limit because of roads and bridges and stuff, and it's like I think 80,000 pounds. My dad used to be a long haul trucker in the 80s and 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and so if you put 20,000 pounds of batteries in it, because it's a big truck, needs a lot of energy storage, well then that's
True.
20,000 pounds you can't haul, and so that is a problem with the battery powered trucks, because your average EV is a lot heavier. Like a Tesla Model 3 is about the size of my Subaru, but it weighs as much as my truck, kind of thing, because the batteries are heavy. So that is a problem, and that's kind of been I think that's why the Tesla semis have been more relegated to short haul trips and lighter loads and stuff. You're probably, I think, if you want to look at a solution to that, there's a company out of Canada called Edison, and they have their truck is kind of the opposite of a Tesla. They're going for the fulls. You can repair it yourself. They want you to buy the truck and have it forever. Whereas Tesla is like the Apple model, where it's like sealed off and
can't touch it.
Yep, can't touch it. So they sell the Edison. It's like you can get all the parts for it. You can repair it yourself in your own shop. They sell a few different versions of it. from all the way, they sell a fully electric version for like short haul stuff, or they sell a diesel hybrid version where it's got a little diesel generator on there. It's actually lighter weight. It can go farther, but it's more efficient because it's like a mining truck where it uses the diesel just to make electricity, and then the electric motor turns the wheels. And so you've got a little storage capacity in the battery there, so you can run purely electric in town or something like that, and then use the diesel motor to generate power for the highway. And that's I think I like that solution a little bit better because there's a lot of spaces where a fully electric long haul truck doesn't make sense in America.
With a name like Edison,
Yeah.
how did they get that trademarked? I mean,
That's a
Don't
good
know.
question.
I don't know. I mean, I guess Tesla was too poor. He never trademarked his name. I don't know if the Edison company does. The Edison still
yeah, there you go. Maybe.
Yeah.
maybe it's so old now the trademark's no longer valid. Edison's been dead for 100 years or more. Maybe it's not
didn't
valid.
Tesla have like hundreds of not trademarks, but what do you call it?
Patents.
Patents. Yeah, thank you. Patents and things.
I think all that stuff
I
expires.
gotta run out. I gotta meet a neighbor down by my lake.
Okay.
See you
Take
next
care,
month.
Pete.
See
Okay,
ya.
bye.
But yeah. I think all that stuff expires after some time. So maybe the Edison trademarks. He's been dead a while now.
Yeah,
Maybe those
yeah.
all expired.
Could
I
very
don't
well
know.
be.
Right. Well, I saw something before I forget it. I saw something the other day. It just blew my mind. The FAA is looking at enhancing security in the air and stuff, especially for private pilots and that kind of thing. And there's an aircraft that has a parachute. I don't know if you, I forget the actual model of the aircraft, but if you get above 600 feet, this thing actually engages. And so if the pilot gets into trouble or the plane gets into trouble and can't land, you can actually deploy this parachute and it'll parachute the plane down. Now it won't, keep it won't make the plane totally, won't have, no damage, but at least the people inside will survive. Okay. But I saw something that just blew my mind. This is a new safety feature that automates the aircraft such that if the pilot gets into trouble in flight and there's another person on board, like not a co-pilot, but let's say a passenger in the back, can come forward into the aircraft, and there's a red button with a little thing you lift on the thing, and you can lift this thing, and that person can press that red button on the dash of the aircraft, and this plane will automatically fly to the nearest airport with no humans involved and land itself.
I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
with the parachute thing, if they could just then build the plane out of the same thing they build the black box out of, then
Right.
home free, right? Sorry.
Yeah, and a friend of mine has a Cirrus 22. That's the aircraft that has the parachute.
Yep. Seriously.
I've got a question regarding the long haul trucking. How is this currently being regulated when you're in an interstate trucking application? Because each state has its own regulations, and they have to license these trucks. And also, what happens if a state trooper wants to pull over an autonomous vehicle?
That's right.
Is it built into firmware when they see flashing lights or something where the truck will try to pull over?
Well, and the other thing too is, what about waste stations? How does the autonomous driver know to pull into a waste station? You know what I
I
mean?
guess that's why they're surface-to-air missiles or handheld, whatever, rocket launchers.
Rockets.
I do know that I think was it Waymo or something that their AI or whatever, I forget that term, but they're like their code on their cars with like if it saw flashing lights would pull over.
Well, maybe that's
so-
it then. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for the way station stuff, but
Yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of an easy with computer vision. That's kind of an easier problem to solve. It's like, oh, flashing lights. Even if they're not coming after you, you need to get out of the way so it'll pull off.
All right.
And it's
Well, every way station I've seen lately has been closed anyway.
Yeah. Does it know that's closed? I guess it does. I mean, it must send out a signal or something.
Yes.
Yeah. radio
But,
signal or something.
We'll just have to wait for the Hollywood film to come out. Remember the film about the runaway train?
Yeah.
Right.
There's bound to be an AI, autonomous truck that's going to.
Runaway Aurora.
Yeah.
it's just wait till it runs out of battery. It won't be too long.
Right.
That is a nice thing about all these scenarios. It's like, well, if AI is going to take, AI Chat GPT is not going to take over the world. We'll just go unplug the data centers. That would stop it. So, it's still kind of. This future is a bit scary, especially if you're tracking some of the stuff happening in Ukraine and Israel, Gaza right now.
Right.
Use of drones and machine learning powered instrumentation and stuff on those. And there's an old philosophical theory about how things used in the theater of war eventually end up back home on the population at home. And machine learning technology on drones carrying. You're not going to be able to hide from these things if the government wants to deploy it and tracking. And the ability of the government to track everything you do using machine learning tools is quite extreme, like what Dan was pointing out. It's I don't know. I might invest in a 12 gauge and some buckshot or something. I can knock a drone or two out of the sky if I have to. But
that's illegal. Can't do that.
It's great. So they've developed interference weapons for these now, and so in Ukraine they've started using thin fiber optic cables for their drones. So you go through these fields in Ukraine, and they're just like spider webs of like thin, where they've been running the drones back and forth because they can't interfere with the fiber optic cable as they can the radio. So
right.
It's quick. That technology is quickly evolving, and it's scary. Yeah.
I'd say the thing that's scary is this technology is like the B-2 bomber, thing that we just watched go, play out with Israel and Iran. And that was a pretty great thing with that decoy that they did. But they sent like 4 B-2 bombers to Guam, and they turned off the stealth capability so everybody in the world could see them, and they thought that's where they were going. And then they sent the other 7 or 8 or 9 B-2s, on their way to Iran under full stealth capability. Those things crossed like several countries, 4, 5, 6 countries, undetected to their target, and then dropped their payload of bunker busters, and then came back, refueled in the air and everything, undetected across those countries. Here's what's the scary thing is that China's now really upset about that because they're concerned because there is a dam in the Yellow River in China. I'm not exactly sure where it is. And they're concerned that they're concerned that if they attack Taiwan, that we will send, I don't think we would do it, but we would send these B-52 bombers to China and bomb this dam, with a bunker buster. And if that thing were to blow that dam up, it would immediately kill 2 million people, just drown them.
Yeah.
And so China now is kind of really worried about that because it would go undetected and they would never know it. So I don't know.
I don't know why they publicized the decoy ploy after the fact.
After the fact, yeah.
It doesn't make sense because that could jeopardize using that tactic in future encounters.
It's true.
It's true. You see people online who get freaked out with like, oh, there's military planes and you can see them moving on ADS-B sites like Flight Radar 24, and I'm like, yeah, that's not the ones you need to worry about. If they're flying, if they're chirping when they're flying, they want you to see them.
You need to worry about the B-2s and the submarines. That's what you need to worry about.
I have that app on my phone, and because we have a lot of military fly up. I guess they use this area for like practicing, and every time one of those things comes bombing through Boone and like rattles windows, you look on the ADS-B and they're not there. They are running silent, on the radio, and that's the ones you can see. You're not the one. If you know that they're moving, that is for the benefit of intimidation or strategy. Yeah, they're not actually going to attack.
Not deterrence. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Right.
I do need to go too. So I'll see you guys later.
All right.
Good
Well, I
to
don't
see
have anything really to go over, so I guess we could just end the meeting if you want.
you. All right.
See you
All
guys.
right. All right. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.